Hey everyone, welcome back to Ask Amy. I have a question today from Heather. Let me find my question here. It's very short and sweet. Heather says, I can really relate to everything you described about Jeremy in the Little Book of Big Change, Chapter 7, all of his worries and fears. So I'll just take a little sidebar here. Jeremy, I don't even remember what Jeremy was on about. It doesn't really matter. We're all on about something. Our minds are all on about something. Uh, I think it was financial. He had intrusive thoughts, a ton of thoughts about financial worries. I think that's what it was. And like all of us, was really believing them and from within them trying to figure them out. Like, why in this moment do I feel secure financially, and in that moment do I feel not secure financially? Which one's the truth, and how can it work this way? And what does it feel like when I feel a true thought, and what does it feel like when I feel an untrue thought? Which is a lot more thinking. It's a lot more jumping in the middle of thought and trying to figure out thought with thought, which is going to be a mess. So the chapter was around Jeremy's worries and how he began to kind of see around all of that, see it for what it is. So Heather asks, how did you help him see that his thoughts were not true and that he didn't have to act on them? Which is such a great, simple question, Heather. How did you help him see that all of this wasn't true and that there was nothing to act on? And I don't know. That's the true answer. But the thing is, we don't have to worry about the acting part. We don't have to worry at all about how do we help someone not act on their thoughts, because seeing thought as thought, seeing, as Heather said, seeing that thought isn't true, that's one way to say it. It's one side of things, but true, untrue, again, that can be just more thinking that comes in. To me, it feels cleaner and simpler and more accurate to just look at seeing thought as thought, seeing the fact that there is this constant flow of conversation, judgment, labeling, calculating, figuring, meing. Everything in that is about me and my life, right? The world doesn't care about you and your life. There is no you in your life to the world out there. There's just this. There's just life. There's no you in your little life. There's just life. So in moment to moment experience, when the narrator and the narration is all about me and my life, which is most of the time, right? Really, like almost all of the time, we know that's a mind just thinking. So seeing that for what it is, meaning seeing that there is just this constant, endless flow and stream of conversation, judgment, calculation, meing, all of that, and that is simply something that happens. That is just it's a verb, it's a process. It's part of being feeling like a human being, apparently, on this planet. Like, it is just how experience goes. But it is not something we need to do anything about. It is not all there is. It is just a mental conversation. It's just a narration. But it is not the whole truth. It is not all there is. It is not who we are. It is not a reflection of life. It is not a reflection, accurate portrayal of our past or future. Again, there is no, it creates us and our past or future. So seeing thought as thought is what we can start to wake up to. It's what Jeremy and many, many, many others have started to wake up to. And that takes care of the action. Because, Heather, when we're seeing, oh, this is just that. This is the judgment and the calculation and all the meing again. But it's literally like a TV playing. Like, you can watch a movie, you can watch a show, and you don't have to jump in, or you don't jump in and think it's all true and now everything needs to be solved for and figured out. It's just a show. And truly, that's how it starts to look. That's how it can start to look for us, for any of us, for all of us. And in that, there's just the action. How do you not act on it? I'm not saying it's always easy. There may be thought that arises that suggests something. There will be a lot that feels like it has some energy to it, that feels uncomfortable. That's fine. So what? There's all kinds of stuff that arises, comfortable and uncomfortable. But as we see thought as thought, acting on it less is just a given. It's just part of the seeing. So it's really about the seeing. It's so curious to me lately, the whole thing about how people have used this metaphor, this example of seeing the pictures come out of the hidden picture, the thing where you have to switch your gaze a little bit, you relax your focus or something, and the hidden pictures pop out, and then once you see it, you cannot see it. Super old, super cliche. Everybody talks about that, right? But it's like that. I've seen that more and more myself in the last couple years, where it's like, it's an issue of focus in a sense. It's an issue of being so immersed in this conversation and the judgments and the meaning and the calculating and the time and space and all of that. So immersed in that sometimes we need to hear for a while that's not all there is. And then that's just a nice idea. Like, okay, that's cool. And that it was like that for me. Like, oh, wow, that's cool. There's something beyond this. It doesn't mean I felt beyond this. I still was very identified with the narration. And it's just that doubt begins to be cast on that. And you're holding it a little less, and you're more and more suspicious, and you're more and more like, man, this is a real movie. Man, this feels like a real movie, a realistic movie. Could it really be a movie? And it doesn't feel like a movie, but you know that it is. So you're sort of hanging out in a little bit of limbo. And I know you're there, Heather, because I know you've explored this enough to at least be suspicious. You've read about Jeremy and it resonated. So you're on to the fact that there's more than just this narration. And we can't start anywhere else. I don't know where else we'd start. That's a amazing, perfect place to start. So it's like there's this thought, feeling, this reality all the time. And we're either super immersed in it, or we're a little more suspicious, and there's a little more room around it. And maybe you start to get curious about like, okay, if it's not just this, if this is just a conversation, this is just a movie playing, I'm just a character in this movie that arises. Well, then what? Well, then what's bigger? What's around that? And it almost feels like a foreground, background thing, where this pure beingness, just aliveness, this just aliveness. There's stories arise within aliveness. Everything is in this aliveness, but this aliveness, and that's just my word in this moment. I don't know what that means, but there's a sense of beingness or aliveness that has always been there. And it's just been in the background for a long time, because we get so zoomed into the story. Me and my life, me and my problem. How am I going to fix my habit? How am I going to make this different? How am I going to end my suffering? How can I feel different? That is just zoomed into the story. That's it. You want to get curious about what's behind that. What's the aliveness? And what if that story is just a story that just plays out because it's just super habitual? It gets a lot of attention. It seems really meaningful. It looks like there's a storyline of a me in my life person that needs to be attended to, but it's just a storyline. So you back off that a bit and you're curious, like, oh gosh, what if this is just what's arising? What if none of this is true or about me or needing anything? And more, it's like the foreground and background begin to shift a little bit. And you can play with this, and you can do it as a practice if you want to. You can experiment with it. You can put yourself more in the position of this aliveness, of this awareness. That is alive, that is aware of everything. It is aware of this Heather character. It's not Heather's aware. I'm not talking to Heather being aware. I'm saying you are awareness, and there's apparently a character named Heather who has some issues that shows up within that awareness. Well, that's different. That's a huge perceptual shift. You're not here as Heather, fix my life. You're here as awareness, like, oh, there's a Heather, and there's an Amy, and there's a Joe, and there's a Bill. Apparently, they all rise within all of this. A mind will not argue with what I'm saying, but not grasp it, and that's normal. Your mind can't grasp this. So if your mind right now is saying, I don't know what this means, I don't get it, that doesn't feel real to me. No kidding. That's what a mind will say. Your mind is not going to say, oh, I get it. I got that. Done. Good. Totally. Like it just doesn't go that way. So when your mind is saying, I don't know about that. I don't know if I've ever felt that. Is this it? No, it must feel better than this. This isn't awareness. It has to have some bigger feeling. Like that's just your mind talking crap again. Like it's just what it does. So don't worry about, am I getting it? Am I not? Progress, all that crap. Just play with this a little bit. So your question really, Heather, is your specific question was, how did I get him to see that thoughts aren't true and to stop acting on them? And I didn't do that, of course. No one can do that for anyone else. He woke up to whatever he woke up to. But in a really practical way, I do want to tell you that this can happen. And it's not even a this that happens so much. Hold that loosely. But people see things, and the perspective shifts, and you become more of the background rather than the foreground. All of this happens all the time and in infinite ways, and who the heck knows, and no one makes it happen. And we're so immersed in the story that it can be super, super helpful, and I think sometimes necessary, to get some support with this, to be in a conversation with someone who has seen this, who knows this intimately, not just in theory, who can show you what's going on, who can play with the exercises and suggest things for you to take on, and can help you stay curious when your mind is over here saying, yeah, no, I don't know what that means because I haven't felt that feelings. A good coach will come in and say, what are you talking about? What feeling? How do you think you know what that's supposed to feel like? A coach, someone else who's not your own mind, will help you see all the ways that a mind will come in and put up a barrier, because that's all that happens. There's no other barrier. There's no other barrier anywhere ever, but a thought that feels true, a thought that looks true. So being with other people, being around people who speak this language and have seen this, working with someone consistently where they're there to point out your false barriers all the time, that's the easiest, fastest, best way I can see. I don't know why everyone wouldn't do that. I mean, you can also listen to things and read things and send me questions, and that's great. But it's all just pointing in a direction, and your mind's going to go off and make up something, and you may or may not see that, and that's okay too. But the more interaction you have, the more you're with someone really looking at this, who's seen it, who knows what to look for, and knows how a mind throws up barriers, and that the only barrier is a thought, the easier, the faster it tends to go. But again, that's all it tends to. This is all natural for us. This is all completely default, completely natural. You, Heather, lived in this space of what now feels invisible to you, or like the background, being the foreground for the first couple years of your life, and nature's still pushing you back there all the time. It's just that there's been a big focus on a story of a Heather and a Heather's life that gets attended to a lot. So when you start hearing all this conversation about Heather and Heather's life, that's your clue. That's your like, oh, okay, I'm here and I want to be here. Hope that's helpful. Thank you so much, Heather, for sending your question. Thanks everyone for listening. Send your questions about any of this stuff, anything at all, to askamy@thelittleschoolbigchange.com. And I'll see you on Monday. Have a great week.